Let's go Broncos! Something big is happening within the Denver Broncos, and most fans haven't yet realized how much this could change everything we thought we knew about the offense. A bold decision has been made behind the scenes, and it could both unleash the team's full potential and expose challenges we didn't foresee. But before we go any further, be sure to like this post if you truly believe this team is ready to rise again. And I want to see who's really optimistic about this roster. Leave a comment right now. Go Broncos! 2026 is our comeback year. Now let's get straight into it. One of the most intriguing developments this season is the decision to hand over play calling duties to Davis Webb. This is not just another promotion. This is a massive responsibility shift. We're talking about a first-time NFL play caller stepping into a role previously held by one of the most respected offensive minds in football. And that alone raises serious questions about how this transition will unfold in real time. From what we know, this isn't a move made lightly. The belief inside the organization is clear. This change is meant to make the team better. But here's where things get interesting. Webb doesn't have a large sample size as a play caller. His experience is limited, with glimpses coming from situations like preseason action, where he showed flashes of balance, mixing nearly 40 pass attempts with around 30 rushing plays, something the offense struggled to maintain consistently last season. And that balance is key, because one of the biggest issues previously was inconsistency, especially when it came to offensive rhythm. There were moments where the passing attack showed explosiveness, particularly with deep plays involving multiple receivers averaging significant yards per catch. But sustaining that over a full season? That's a completely different challenge. Now Webb steps in with the opportunity to reshape that identity. The real test won't come in preseason or even training camp. It's going to hit hard in the first few weeks of the regular season. Defensive coordinators across the league will study tendencies, adapt quickly, and force Webb to counter-adjust. That chess match, that's where we'll truly see what he's made of. And let's be honest about something. He's not operating in a vacuum. Standing right behind him is a head coach who still has one of the sharpest offensive minds in the game. That creates both an advantage and a potential complication. On one hand, Webb has a safety net. Guidance is always there if things go wrong. On the other hand, there's the looming question. Will there be moments where control gets taken back if struggles appear? Because that dynamic matters more than people realize. Another critical layer here is how Webb utilizes the offensive weapons. In earlier glimpses, we saw an emphasis on explosive plays and spreading the ball around. Multiple receivers were heavily involved, and the offense looked aggressive. But can he maintain that while also improving efficiency, especially in key situations like red zone execution or short yardage plays? There's also a philosophical element at play. The vision includes running the ball more effectively, using multiple personnel sets, and creating versatility. But execution depends entirely on how much freedom Webb actually has to implement those ideas. And that leads us to one of the biggest underlying questions. How much control does he truly have? Because while he's been handed the responsibility, there are indications that certain high-leverage situations, like two-point conversions, fourth downs, or specific play packages, could still involve input from above. That kind of shared control can either create a powerful collaborative system or lead to hesitation at critical moments. Inside the building, there's also strong belief in Webb's attention to detail. His preparation habits, his understanding of defenses, and his ability to connect with players, especially quarterbacks, all played a role in earning this opportunity. That trust didn't come out of nowhere. But trust in the offseason is one thing. Trust in the middle of a tight game, with everything on the line, is something else entirely. And that's where the pressure will truly hit. Because stepping into this role means stepping into expectations, not just to manage the offense, but to elevate it, to bring new energy, new creativity, and ultimately, results. And this is where things take an even deeper turn, because the conversation isn't just about play calling anymore, it's about relationships, power dynamics, and how leadership inside the offense is about to evolve in real time. One of the most fascinating aspects of this transition is the connection between Davis Webb and Webb and Nix. From the moment Bo arrived, Webb was one of his closest allies in the building. There was trust, communication, and a natural chemistry that helped accelerate Bo's development early on. But now, everything changes. Webb isn't just a supportive voice anymore, he's the one making the final decisions. And that shift, it's bigger than it looks. Because when you go from being the good cop in the quarterback room to the guy calling the plays on Sunday, there's an adjustment that has to happen on both sides. Webb now has to establish authority in moments where before he was more of a guide. And Bo has to respond to that, understanding that while collaboration still exists, the final word no longer comes from discussion, it comes from Webb. That doesn't mean the relationship breaks, far from it. In fact, there's a strong belief that this connection could actually become a strength for the offense. There's already a shared understanding between them, a rhythm in how they communicate, and potentially a more aligned vision compared to what we've seen before. And that's crucial, because one of the subtle storylines over the past seasons has been how offensive philosophy sometimes felt like it was still being figured out in real time. There were moments caught on sidelines, conversations about personnel, adjustments, signs that not everything was always perfectly aligned. Now, there's a chance to reset that. With Webb and Bo potentially seeing the game through a more similar lens, the offense could operate with greater cohesion, fewer disconnects, faster decisions, more confidence in execution. But don't get it twisted, that doesn't mean it'll be smooth all the way through. There are going to be moments where Webb has to challenge Bo, moments where he has to be demanding, where he has to correct mistakes aggressively, where he has to step into that leadership role fully. And on the flip side, there will be moments where Bo pushes back, where he questions decisions, where he brings his own perspective to the table. That tension? It's not a problem. That's competition. That's growth. And inside a winning culture, those moments are necessary. What makes this even more complex is the presence of the head coach still hovering over everything. There's a three-way dynamic forming here: Webb, Bo, and the head coach, and that triangle might be the most important factor in determining how far this team goes in 2026. Because balance is everything. You don't want Bo ignoring input from above. You don't want Webb feeling undermined. And you don't want interference at the wrong moments disrupting the flow of the game. If those three can stay aligned, truly aligned, this offense could unlock something we haven't seen yet. And there's another layer that fans are starting to whisper about. What if this is bigger than just one season? There's a growing sense that this move isn't only about immediate results, it could also be about the future. If Webb succeeds in this role, if the offense takes a leap, if this team makes a deep run, you're suddenly looking at a rising coach who could be next in line for something even bigger. We've seen this pattern before in the league. A young offensive mind gets an opportunity, proves he can handle it, builds trust with players, and suddenly becomes the centerpiece of a long-term vision. And considering how highly Webb is already viewed, not just internally, but across the league, that possibility isn't as far-fetched as it might sound. There's even quiet speculation about what happens if everything clicks perfectly. If this offense thrives, if the team reaches its ultimate goal, could we be witnessing the early stages of a much larger transition within the organization? It sounds bold, but so did the idea of giving up play calling in the first place. And yet, here we are. Now it's your turn. Broncos country. If this experiment works and the offense explodes under Davis Webb, do you see him becoming a long-term cornerstone for the team's future? Or do you think this is just a temporary adjustment before things shift again? And if you've made it this far, don't forget to subscribe, leave your like, and check out the next video on your screen, because we're just getting started with everything happening behind the scenes in Denver.